Paul, can we change MACD inputs? I don't use the defaults. Yes, absolutely. And we just kind of walked through that, Paul. So I'm just going to use my bull put credit spreads as an example. And so I'm just going to go to the bull put credit spread. We're going to go to the search. This is what you'd see if the top 3 results you'd see if you went to the weekly picks of the day. The weekly picks of the day for bull put credit spreads for the covered calls weekly and monthly, naked puts weekly and monthly. They're truncated to show just the top 2 or 3, what we did in our testing and what we do in our trading. Top 3 based on return. All right, 29% return, 85% probability. Astra, sorry, I'm going to skip these 2 right away. I honestly, even though they come up, I don't set it in my search results, but I avoid the biotech. Sometimes that's lost me money. Anything in the biotech area, in the that kind of area. So I'd look at Shopify, Arista, Annette, love Annette, did that a couple times as a married put, worked out well for me both times. I did a semiconductors before, but I remember on TSM, but I like some of these results here. Robinhood has been, dropped down today, but it's been on a heater. Anyway, default, weekly bull puts, 8 to 17 days out of time, minimum 20-cent net credit, minimum return 9%. Range out of the money is 3%. I don't really need that, but probability, theoretical probability that stock will be trading at or above our short put strike price at expiration, 85%. I don't do single strikes. I look for 2 strikes or more. Again, what did I mention when we talked about it? Short bid-ask spread, limiting that to 50%. Some basic open interest. Fundamentals, not between now and expiration. That's it. I'm not even looking for positive earnings per share growth on this search. The technicals. I want stocks that have been trading at least, had that MACD crossover at least 3 days, where the MACD has crossed over the signal line for at least 3 days or more. I'm looking for more of a long-term positive trend. And stock list, in this case, I'm just excluding indexes and ETFs. I'm not saying trading bull put credit spreads on an index and ETF are a bad idea at all. That's not what I'm saying. When we were initially commissioned, Ernie was initially commissioned by a gentleman on a coaching session, said, okay, well, you're telling me your defaults, but I want to know just what is the search for covered calls? Well, I don't care if it's in the money, at the money, or out of the money, but what criteria should I have that would give me the best return over time for weekly or monthly covered calls? And that's how Ernie developed the picks of the day. He went out and tested against 80 different iterations in the money, at the money, out of the money. Positive earnings per share growth, negative earnings per share growth. He's changing all the dials possible. Is probably closer to 160 different iterations, but he's really focusing on mainly the 10 criteria that have worked for him over the years since late 70s, really, to be successful as a covered call trader before he found out other ways to trade and developed other strategies. And that's how the monthly and weekly naked puts came to be. He tested them over an 18-month period. It was a market period. You can see that. If you just go under covered call, you go to monthly or weekly picks of the day, you'll see a tag there or a link, that'll say, see how we develop these results. All right. Well, I did the same thing with bull put credit spreads because I had been testing it, playing around with it since about 2014, 2015. I said, there's got to be a way that I can hit my targets. And what were my targets? And every 10 to 14 days or every month, but every 10 to 14 days, I'm targeting about 14 to 15% return in that case. Excuse me, guys. And I want a good probability with less management. Management is still necessary. That's why we have some of the videos you've seen on 8 ways to manage a bull put credit spread. But again, this is not the index and ETF search. If you go under sample searches under bull put credit, you'll see, sample searches, you'll see an ETF and index bull put credit spread screen. But I'm sorry, going back to the technicals, this is my preference. Do you want to see bull put credit spreads where the MACD has just crossed over in the last day or so? I got McDonald's. Nice. McDonald's. Okay. 11.6% return. This is why I typically don't use the indexes and ETFs, because when my target, as I mentioned, 2 weeks out in time, 14 to 15% return, 85% 85, 86% probability. When you go to SPY or QQQ, you can find those positions very easily, but the return's going to be 6%, 7%, talking about implied volatility. McDonald's here, 11.6%, half of some of the returns that we saw, but that's still a good position. Where's our chart? Not chart. Where do we just recently cross over? I want a bottom feed. I want to see the stock that's coming off of the bottom instead of having it 3 to 4 days. I'm sorry, scroll this way. There you go. It just came off a bottom of about 302, kinda, and you're seeing the separation up to 311. Last bottom here, we saw hit, and then the earnings sort of through it, but then the last bottom again, down here in the $300 range, and it's been navigating it, but we do have a positive MACD crossover. And of course, to answer your other question, not other question, but to answer other aspects of it, sure, I can say I want it to be where the MACD is positive. It's above that divergence line. Was McDonald's in that range? Yes, it was. We saw it above the divergence line and just breaking off. So you could set that to over and under. You can change these criteria. That's the whole point of this tool is you can change these criteria any way you want. And I can save that. And now I can call it bull put modified. Oh, if I could spell correctly, folks. Type in the dark, right? Modified MACD bottom. And I could put it in the description as well. I'm not. Now go ahead and save this search. So now every time I log on to Power Options, I'm not defaulting to the weekly bull puts. I'm defaulting to my bull put modified MACD bottom. Let's see what results come in there.